mean, move on to the next thing in terms of just the elections. I mean, what's going on there? And, is anybody got a specific stance on the economy? I haven't been following as much. I mean, you kind of like our election correspondent per se. What's going on that front, man?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the economy is concerned, obviously all the candidates, McCain, Hillary, Barack, I mean, they've all got their takes on it. But if you wanted to ask my honest opinion, I don't think any one of them has got quite a handle on what needs to happen. They've got some decent ideas, but not McCain, not Obama, not Clinton. Not one of them is an expert. I think what would be a good idea, I'll talk about one specifically. You take a guy like McCain, who's admittedly that says that's one of his biggest faults is the economy. When you look at running mates, he might consider a Mitt Romney who's run and made himself self-made multimillionaire. He's run the Olympics. I mean, he's been a governor. I think that's what I'm going to be looking at when I look at the candidates. Who's going to be your VP? And if the economy is a hot button issue, you're going to pick somebody that has those types of skills.
Hey, I agree with you, man. The only thing with Mitt Romney, and this is the thing, and I'm not dogging him. This is the thing that hurt his election, man. He might want to try to wait until that whole polygamist thing passed. He's trying to connect that stuff to his butt, man. He's trying to connect them to that.
Right.
They're going to be like, hey, how many more wives do you have?
You might be right.
So he might want to try to distance himself from that whole thing.
Yeah, good point. I mean, I think that's what did hurt him. But, when we look specifically, let's talk a little bit about Hillary and Barack Obama. What do you think at this point? Should one of them drop out? I mean, Howard Dean, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, basically said that one of them needs to basically step aside. Maybe not right away. The last primaries, Democratic primaries, I believe is on June 3rd. At that point, one of them needs to do the right thing.
I do think that maybe a candidate should sort of step down, or even if, and this might be sort of the dream ticket, although they both come out and said that they would never, be VP for each other, is actually to try to say, hey, you know what, for the party, let's go ahead and be on the same ticket.
Yeah, and when we talk about the dream team ticket, I think the biggest issue with that is
who's going to be on top.
Who's on top? That's what it comes down to. Who's on top? And I think if you put Barack Obama on the top, the issue that he's going to have to deal with is a person named Bill. If you think about a former president as the vice president's husband, Bill's going to take his digs. Bill's going to think he's back in the office himself, and you might not want that in your backyard, on a day-to-day basis, and someone constantly second guessing you and saying, hey, I've been there, done that. You flip it, you put Clinton on top, and I've made my concerns known to you, but if you put Clinton on top, I don't think you have such a big issue. Maybe it actually does Barack Obama some good, gives him that experience to maybe go that next time around, or in 8 years. That could, I think that would work better, but I won't be voting for Hillary.
even with Barack running, as her party mate.
Hey, I tell you, like I said before, man, I'm not a huge 100% supporter of Barack Obama, but I absolutely am not a fan of Hillary Clinton. Just not a fan. I think she's disingenuous. And I think she tends to mislead people, and I got a serious issue with that.
I don't know. I know we had we're gonna definitely agree to disagree on this topic, but I can personally, I think it's her not being truthful or disingenuous is maybe not as bad as our current president being deceitful and disingenuous. So, if I've endured that, I certainly want to take a different turn. But, that's a whole different thing, man. We talked about this before.
I think that's what it comes down to is I think we will both agree that something different needs to happen.
But enough about the stuff that's going on politically and all that kind of stuff, man. Let's talk about something that happened last weekend. As you know, I'm a huge football fan. Big football. Last weekend was draft weekend. My team picked fourth, which meant that. Yeah. I mean, we got Darren McFadden, but you're out in the ATL, so I was just curious, man, what your thoughts are of them picking Matt Ryan, who's supposed to be the savior quarterback.
You know what? I haven't really followed it, but I tell you, when you look at potentially, we don't know the specifics of what's going to happen with Michael Vick, but I think the Falcons set a big signal that, we're probably not going to entertain, maybe we'll kick it around, but we're not going to seriously entertain bringing Michael Vick back. And I think that the people of Atlanta and a lot of the Falcons themselves have decided, hey, it's time to move on. So I think it was a good pick. I don't know a lot about. Is it Matt Ryan? Is that the kid's name,
Matt
the quarterback they draft? I don't know a lot about him, but I did hear that he was, supposedly the best quarterback in the draft.
People are comparing him, at least his demeanor, his poise, so on and so forth, to Tom Brady. Again, that's pretty high to say of someone who hasn't played a lick in the NFL yet, but
True.
That is the comparison that's being made.
Okay.
Speaking of which, what do you think about these guys getting the guy that was signed with Miami, man, 29 million guaranteed money? Dude hadn't even put his foot, he hadn't even stepped on the field yet.
I guess football is good business. Football is good business, so I can't hate on him. But more of the specifics. I look at these contracts, and they don't make a whole lot of sense to me. When you say guaranteed money, no matter what, this kid is going to get that money.
Yeah, as far as I know, that 29 mil. Unless there's something behind it. Obviously there might be some specifics of the contract itself, but as far as to my understanding, that's cash.
Hey, I got 2 boys. I think I'm grooming them for the NFL draft.
Either that or basketball, because one of the things that's interesting to me, man, is basketball actually does have like a salary cap for their rookies, and which actually I think to me helps out because it actually makes basically the player that gets drafted pretty much is going to know how much the maximum he's going to make. The teams are basically going to sign those guys and they can get into the camp, because one of the things that happened specifically last year with my Raiders, they drafted Jamarcus Russell number 1. He didn't get into camp. In fact, he didn't even get signed until the second week of the NFL. Dude missed, all of the camp. So basically this year is his first year. It's certainly his first camp. So, I don't know if that's such a great thing of having these big signing bonuses when you can't even get these guys signed and in camp.